Okaeri, welcome back to my channel, May Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a late July TBR. It may or may not be the 6th of July when I'm filming this, but better late than never. And I'm actually super excited for this TBR because this month I'm focusing on the Indie Accords readathon. In June, I was barely able to read, even though I had a lot of books I was looking forward to on my TBR, because I had a big test, a big Japanese test, and I was focusing on studying more than anything. But now that I've got a bit of breathing room between this test and the next one, I really want to jump into my books again this month. So that's one, the reason for this TBR being late, and two, the reason that this TBR is so overloaded because I think I'm just so excited about all of these books. The Indie Accords Readathon was created by Lana over on Lore and Lullabies, one of my very good friends in this space, and she does an incredible job putting this together every year. This year we also have some amazing indie and self-pub authors who have thrown their books into the prize pot as things that you can win if you win the competitions within the readathon. We have 3 different teams, and the one that I have chosen to be on, which is the best team, is Dark Knights. And Dark Knights focuses more on darker fantasy or horror. And the team captains for this team are Lana and Steve from Steve Talks Books, 2 very good friends of mine, and I just knew that this was the team for me when I joined. The competition is fierce to see who can get the most pages and the most books read, but I have full confidence in the Dark Knights, and hopefully starting today I can start putting my page count towards our total goal. So far I haven't been very helpful to my team, but I plan to make up for that. This is the readathon that first sparked my love of self-pub and indie books in the first place. So I just want to give a shout out to Lana. Thank you for creating this, for making this amazing space for people to discover the whole new world of self-pub and indie books. I mean, I'm a Spiffbo judge now. Like, I wouldn't be here without this readathon, so I'm so psyched to get started. I do have an official TBR that's part of the Indie Accords Readathon graphic, but basically these are just one of the books that I would like to read for this prompt. This is more like a MBR, or maybe read. I've seen a lot of people talking about that, and that's basically what I went with for this readathon, where there's more than one book for most of the prompts, and I'm just going to choose one of the 2, and if I could get to both, that'd be wonderful, but I'm just giving myself options. So even if it's on the graphic, it's not the only book that I have as an option for each prompt. Another point is that I do have Kindle Unlimited, so almost all of these books are going to be on my Kindle this month. It's going to be a very Kindle-heavy month. I don't have these physically yet. Of course, I do want to support indie and self-pub authors, so if I end up loving the book, I will be purchasing a physical copy, but I will be using my dusty, my raggedy-ass Kindle. I'm looking for a new case, okay? But I will be using this for most of the month. Okay, so the first prompt is to read a host favorite. Now you can read any host's favorite, but I decided to go with my team's hosts, which are Lana and Steve. From Lana's selection, I chose Nightfall by David Barnett. This is a horror book, I believe it's horror, that has been on my radar for ages, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about this. And I believe the premise is that all of the light disappears from the world, and it's about how humans would survive in that environment. And I am so intrigued by this. I know the books are short, so I could definitely blow through these, and I need some short books maybe to get myself back into the groove of reading. So I'm very, very excited to get to this one. And from Steve's list, I chose Beyond Redemption by Michael R. Fletcher. I've wanted to read Fletcher for a really, really long time. Blackstone Heart is another one that I really want to get to. But Steve and Epic and Yolene, not Yolene, she hasn't read this one yet. And basically everyone that's on Friday Conversations or on Page Chewing has told me I need to read this book, that it's the grimdarkiest of the grimdark, and I don't know, I've been convinced to pick it up. So this is as good of a time as any, and it was on Steve's list, so hoping to pick this one up soon. Prompt number 2 was to read in a different format, so an audiobook or an ebook. Now, I do often read ebooks and physical books, and Lana basically admitted this was to get people to engage with audiobooks, like indie audiobooks, so basically it's read an audiobook. I don't have Audible, so the audiobooks that I pick up are usually limited to what's available on Scribd or in my library, but I did find one that I've had in my TBR for a really long time that is available via Scribd via audiobook. and that is Ghosts of the Sea Moon by A.F. Stewart. Now, I haven't really seen many reviews of this. I'm sure that they're out there, but when I read the summary of this book, it pulled me in right away because it's meddling gods, which everyone knows I adore. It's two siblings, I believe, that are fighting, and humans get swept up in this fight, and it's about the cataclysmic events that can come from two god siblings having a beef with each other. And it just sounds like something that's really up my alley. So when I saw it on Scribd, I was like, this is it. This is the one I'm going with. Prompt number 3 is read a book with less than 200 reviews on Goodreads. So for this first one, I was surprised it had less than 200 because I've heard quite a few people talk about it. But that is Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons. So I mentioned this very briefly in my mid-year book freakout tag. At least that's what that's called, as a very cozy book that I wanted to pick up. And I don't know anything about this book except what the title, tells you that it's about, but I'm in the mood for something cozy, and I think that this would just be a really cute book to pick up in between all the grimdark and the horror and stuff that I've already put on this list. The other option I want to give myself for this is Where the Veil is Thin. This is an anthology of fairy stories, and what led me to find this is Shauna Maguire is actually part of this anthology, but it was released by an indie publishing house called Outland Entertainment, and I had never heard of one, the publishing house, and two, I was really surprised that Shauna Maguire has a work out there that I haven't heard anyone talk about. So of course, like I said, it's an anthology, so there are many other authors in this anthology. I can't recall them off the top of my head right now. I'll put them on the screen, but that made me very interested in this book, so if I could get to it, that'd be fun. I haven't read an anthology in a minute, and of course they can be hit or miss, but I don't know, something about this one just calls to me, so I put it on here. Prompt number 4 is to read an author from another country. Now, the one that I really, really want to get to for this prompt is A Prelude to Ashes, which is the prequel to A Touch of Light. I'd also like to get to A Touch of Light as well, by Thiago Abdulla. He's from Brazil, and he's actually part of this, this readathon, although he's on the opposing team, Narwhals, which... no comment, you chose the wrong team. But I've heard incredible things about this book from people, all over the book community, so very excited to get to this one. I know almost nothing about the book, but the cover is stunning, and you can get the prequel for free if you sign up for the newsletter on Thiago's website, so if you haven't done that, I don't know why not. I would go do that now. The other option I'm giving myself for this is Army of the Cursed by Karim Solimon. He is also an author, and this book as well I've seen floating around, the space for a really long time. People picking it up here and there and giving it really good reviews. So I figure why not add it to the list if I can get to it. Prompt number 5 is to leave a review. I'm going to be doing that for all of these books. I always write a review for every book that I've read on Goodreads, except for very few exceptions. So I definitely plan to continue with that for this readathon. Prompt number 6 is to read a black, white, red, or blue cover. Now for this one, I'm choosing Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill, which is the first book in the Bound and the Broken series. I've been so lucky to get to know Ryan through the Whiskey and Books group that I started. He's a wonderful human, and he doesn't really need an introduction at this point because his books have just shot off. Like, he's doing incredible. You're doing great, sweetie. But I definitely want to jump on the bandwagon and finally pick up his books. And I do know that there's a buddy read for the 3rd one in the series, which I think he just released in this readathon. So if I could binge the first 2, look, these are big dreams, okay? Big dreams. I'm not sure I'm going to get there. But if I could binge the first 2 for this prompt, then I could jump on. That would be 3 books. You know what? In a perfect world, if I could read the first 2 and then join in with the read-along that's part of this readathon, I would love to do that. Number 6 is to read a book for the cover, and for that one I chose By Sea and Sky by Antoine Bandele. I know I fucked that up, someone correct me. Just look at the cover of this book. It's got like a strong piratey female character screaming her rage into the world with flying pirate ships behind her. Like, how can you not want to pick this up? Prompt number 8 is a 5-star prediction. For this, I'm going to go with We Men of Ash and Shadow by H.L Tinsley, Holly Tinsley. I have been wanting to pick this up for months, and I just haven't been able to bump it to the priority of my TBR. But this time, I really want to get to this because I truly think it's going to be 5 stars for me. Everything I've heard about it sounds up my alley. If you were to ask me what are the details I've heard about the book, for some reason right now can't recall. Can't recall the details, but I do remember every time I've heard someone talk about this book, and it's all people that I trust, all of the things that they say about it and the elements that they love are things that I was like, oh, yes, that sounds perfect for me. So this is my 5-star prediction, even though I can't tell you the synopsis right now, but I'm sure we all have books like that where it just gives you that feeling. You just look at it and you're like, yes, you're gonna be right for me. Prompt number 9 is to read a diverse book. Now for this one, I did quite a bit of research and jumping around, and I had a couple books that I was thinking of doing, but I actually settled on an anthology again for this one. Again, I might get the pronunciation wrong for this one, but it's either Griots or Griots, which is a sword and soul anthology. Some of the names from the anthology are Charles R. Saunders, Milton J. Davis, and Kirk A. Johnson. I haven't heard of any of these authors before, but this book is released by an indie press called MV Media, which specifically focuses on Afrofuturism and other Black authors. And as soon as I looked up this press, I became interested in a lot of the other books that they're releasing. And there's another one that also caught my eye that I'm putting as an option for this as well, which has a long name, so I'm going to double check it here. Dr. Marvellus Djinn's Odd Scholars by B. Sharise Moore. From the blurb, this looks like a magical kind of carnival-esque setting where a bunch of different magicians, I believe, or people with powers are recruited to take part in this circus. And basically chaos ensues is what I'm seeing. So, or what I got from the blurb. So I don't know, the cover just looks really interesting and the blurb caught my attention, so this is one that I'm also putting on there. But going back to Griots, the title is named after African storytellers, like oral storytellers. And basically it's just a bunch of different anthologies based in African-based fantasy from what I saw. And that sounds extremely up my alley. So if I end up enjoying these books, not only will I be purchasing a physical copy, but I'll definitely be keeping my eye on this publisher because they seem like they publish really interesting stuff. And finally, at the end of this list, I have some rollovers and some non-indie books I'm going to tack on the end here. A lot of these are ones I'm in the middle of now, currently, or ones that were pulled from my physical TBR jar that I didn't get to, which is always the case. The first one being an absolutely too many times repeat offender, and that is The Helm of Midnight. I've talked about this so many times on my channel. It's a combination of like mystery, thriller, and fantasy where they have to track down the spirit of a serial killer who escaped from the helm that it was stuck in. And it just sounds so up my alley, and I still haven't read it. This is on my list. Next is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I am actually about 40% of the way through this book, this beautiful, stunning edition that I've had so much joy reading from. But because it's such a stunning edition, I'm not taking this out of my house, putting it anywhere unsafe at any point. So I'm only reading this when I'm home and can just really sit down and immerse myself and take care of this this copy of this book. So I'm making my way through it slowly, but I'm about 40% of the way through, and I am enjoying it so far. So look forward to my thoughts on this month because I'm sure I'm going to get through this. The other book that I'm in the middle of right now is Speaking Bones by Ken Liu. That is one that I'm going to be finishing before I pick up my audiobook for this particular Indie Accords readathon because I need to know what happens. Currently, I'm about 20% into the audiobook, and I already feel like I'm going to be destroyed, but I'm loving it. I'm living for it. So I have complete 5-star predictions, expectations for Speaking Bones, and you can look forward to my thoughts on that as well this month. And finally, for the Only Good Book Club, we are reading Legends and Lattes, which originally was a self-pub book and is now traditionally published, so I'm not really sure where this would fall, so I decided to not use it for the readathon because it was the pick for the Only Good Book Club this month anyway. And this is a book I've been wanting to get to since it came out. I was lucky enough to even get an ARC, and I haven't picked it up yet, so I'm very excited to get to this one and to discuss it with the group. That concludes my very late July TBR. Let me know in the comments down below if you're going to pick any of these books up, if there's some that you're interested in getting to as well. If you're part of the Indie Accords readathon and you are on the correct team or the wrong team, go ahead and let me know. I would love to chat, as always. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell. I'd love to have you as part of this community, and I appreciate it. But for now, I'm gonna head out. Jane!